Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria. This is my Afterthoughts review of Scaremaster. Oh, I must admit, this has been a very interesting experience for me, and I hope you sort of liked my intro. I know it was probably confusing to a lot of people, but I really did like tying in one of my previous Afterthoughts reviews into this one, and I just couldn't resist. I actually left an annotation on the Picky Pride Afterthoughts review, so people actually will bring them to Scaremaster. Okay, had to get that out of the way. But yeah, this has definitely been an interesting experience, because yeah, I've basically watched this episode like a month or so ago, so it was really weird just having it just sitting basically on my computer waiting to go and everything. And it's nice to finally get that gap. It's like we're just seeing, gaps between the episodes, and now the circle is now complete. This episode was certainly very interesting and definitely was planned to be released exactly on the date that it was released on. That it was meant to be released on. It obviously wasn't supposed to be leaked. Because, well, they dodged a bullet on this one. Because, yeah, fortunately, the Cutie Mark Crusaders were all in costume, so you couldn't see their cutie marks. That would have been disastrous if, they hadn't. Oh, dear. But yes, anyway, obviously a Halloween episode that could actually be aired on Halloween. It's like, that's awesome. But I do have to say, I think that's probably the source of why, we had a quote-unquote a Christmas episode, and then immediately a Halloween episode. It's like, oh dear. I think the short answer, from what little I know about this, it was all a scheduling thing. It's like, well, we were meaning that episode to be aired later, but things just didn't turn out that way because we decided to put everything on, oh dear, I don't know. This is why I don't bother to try to figure out time and how it works in Equestria, because clearly there's no pattern. Oh dear, it doesn't make sense to anyone, so, oh dear. Anyway, so let's move on to the actual episode itself, now that we've hopefully dealt with all the issues that surround this episode. It was kind of interesting. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it. I mean, it's painful watching Fluttershy at the beginning of this episode. Actually, it's more towards about the middle of the episode, because it's just like, these things are just so silly, and as Machan said, it's like, she hasn't been this way since like the beginning of season 1, back in like Dragonshy. She's afraid of like every little thing. But interestingly, some of the things that she does say about, like, the mask and, the layers are actually true. And I'm sure that I've heard those things in safety messages that they say to kids, like, don't wear costumes that have masks or that have, like, I guess, really long capes or something that you could trip on. And I'm sure that I've heard those sorts of things been said to children before. So those things are actually true to a point. But a lot of the other things are just silly. It's like, don't worry, Fluttershy, no one's gonna come up from behind you and do bad stuff to you while you're bobbing for apples or, eating candy or stuff. It's like, come on, Fluttershy, these are your friends. They're not gonna do that to you. But it is an interesting question as to why is she afraid of Nightmare Night? Is it just because this isn't her thing? Is she afraid of being pranked? I really don't know, and it's, dear. But yeah, I mean, it was sort of interesting this episode, but that middle portion is so hard to get over. But obviously, if you're a Halloween person, this is definitely your dream show. Luna Eclipsed focused primarily on Luna. Here we're focusing in a way more on the actual holiday itself in some ways. I mean, yes, obviously the episode is focusing on Fluttershy, although Fluttershy does initially go out to try to get food for Angel, which she promptly ignores. So Angel went hungry that night. Oh. But he doesn't seem to mind too much, so maybe he got over it. I don't know. Or maybe she actually did, before she left the castle, maybe she asked Twilight for some lettuce, like she planned to. I don't know. But it was interesting to see a little bit more to Nightmare Night, and of course the main six's costumes. And okay, I'm gonna get this out of the way. It's like, yes, Twilight in a royal guard costume, or this could be maybe I don't know, maybe some sort of historical figure. But whatever this is clearly based upon some sort of version of the royal guard at some point. It looks like a past version of the royal guard, or maybe could this be female armor? Interesting notion. But anyway, the thing that I just love about that so much is just that it almost makes the Royal Guard something cool and legitimate. It's something that Twilight would actually want to make a costume of. So, yo, I didn't see that coming. Twilight as a royal guard. I would have figured Rainbow Dash would have been a royal guard, particularly because she's actually worn armor at some point. But anyway, it's like, that's almost focus on video worthy of like, why are the main six in these costumes? But that was a personal thing that I really liked about that, because that was just so cool. Because again, it's like, it sort of took the royal guard and put them from the background and put them a little bit into the foreground and everything. And it made, okay, so anyway, enough of that. But yeah, I mean, overall, this episode was okay. I do have to say that when I think about it, that what Fluttershy did was definitely going too far. It's like, she really, let's put it this way, you could probably never do these things to real people in like a maze. You'd get in serious trouble for that. It's like, oh, you can't trap people on a giant spider web and have a giant monster come towards them. You can't do that. It's like, oh. I've actually been trying to avoid that image of the main six all scared. It's like, but now that I've actually looked at it, it's like, oh, they really are scared. They're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. Oh, it's like Pinkie Pie's eyes are literally wide-eyed. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna die. But yeah, it was an interesting point. I think it was Sasma Shadow that it's like, why they don't fight the monster? You know, why are they running away from it and not fighting it? Especially when they're, you know, backed up against the corner. Oh dear. But I think in a way it is generally the main six like, yeah, we prefer to run away from monsters instead of beating them up. Which is generally a good policy. It's like, you know, if you can get away from a situation, it's not worth it to go fight a monster. But at that point, you know, they're literally at the side of a cliff, so it's, they should stand and fight. And in theory, they've fought much worse monsters than this. Yeah, but I do think what Fluttershy did was probably going a little bit far, but yeah, I mean, but it would make sense for her to, you know, it's like, oh, she didn't do enough, to doing too much. That would be a understandable mistake to make, but ultimately, in some ways, it was actually okay. And of course, in a way, that may have been the whole point of this, was that to really, you know, hammer home this point of that Fluttershy doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to scare her friends to death. She doesn't want to look at her friends and look and see them go, oh, and you know, oh, she doesn't want to do that. That makes her feel terrible. She immediately breaks characters and like apologizes, like, oh, can you ever forgive me? Don't worry, Fluttershy, they'll forgive you, because now that they know that you're actually not trying to hurt them, it's like, they thought it was awesome, and they were so proud of you, and it's like, you know, they were probably excited for themselves, because like, oh, now Fluttershy can actually participate in Nightmare Night, and this'll be so much fun, it'll be so cool. But she decides that, nah, she doesn't want to do that. This is just not her thing, and I really like this lesson because it is such an atypical lesson to the show. A normal episode would have said, you know, Fluttershy can actually participate, and here's how. This time they're saying, sure, she can participate, and she's actually good at this, but she doesn't want to. This just isn't her thing. It makes her feel uncomfortable. And that's okay. And of course, it is. The main six, really, they do so much together. You know, not participating in this one thing won't be the end of the world. It won't be that big of a deal. And besides, it's no fun forcing someone to do something that they don't want to do. And I'm glad that the main six also realized that at the beginning, is that, yeah, they want Fluttershy to participate, but if she really doesn't want to, or she's uncomfortable, they're not forcing her to do that. Like Applejack goes, oh, that is if you're up to it, of course. You know, I'm very glad for that. And as Dr. Wolf said, it's like, yeah, I mean, Fluttershy doesn't fail at this. She's not afraid of this. She doesn't let her feels overcome her, and this is why she can't do this. It's not about that she can't do this. She just doesn't want to, and that's fine. And I'm very glad that they did this lesson, because again, it's such an atypical lesson, but it's not a bummer lesson. It's not like, oh, we can't be friends or we can't participate. It's like, no, I just don't want to. Okay. It doesn't mean that we're not really good friends. It just means in this one time with this one thing, they're just not going to participate, and that's fine. I really liked that. And again, it did it in a way that doesn't make Fluttershy look weak or like she can't handle this. And for some reason that reminds me of that, yeah, it's like this was an episode where Rainbow Dash was not exactly being a jerk, but she was kind of being a little bit of a jerk. And she's like, oh, come on, let's just go out there and have some fun. I don't want to stay here. It's like, yeah, Fluttershy's taking all the fun out of this. But at the same time, she's not being portrayed as a total jerk, as someone that we should be completely against. We're just slightly against her. Which which is good. I mean, but I can obviously understand Rainbow Dash's feelings and why he's like, oh, it's like, this is Nightmare Night. This is a time when we get to have fun and do whatever we want. It's like, oh, now we have to hang out with Fluttershy, who's just gonna take all the fun out with this. It's like, I could understand that. Even so, she handled that okay. But the good news is all the characters handled this, I think, okay. And it was certainly interesting to have Nightmare Night come back. It would have been cool to have had Princess Luna make an appearance, or even just, have a brief cameo by Luna. Or even just, even know what Princess Luna was doing here. It would have been cool to have, cut to a shot of, Princess Luna at, a big party in Canterlot. But, no, we didn't have that, but that's okay. But yeah, we did get to see a lot more of Nightmare Night, and we got to see some interesting other things in the background, and in some ways it was definitely another one of these episodes where sometimes what's going on in the background might be more interesting than the story itself. Like, Derpy was actually dressed as Princess Twilight, which was pretty cool. I didn't realize that was Derpy at the time. I was like, oh, there's a pony dressed as Twilight, cool. And we got to learn more about Nightmare Night, and I think just have some fun, and it was definitely cool. The middle portion for me, really hard, but overall, this episode is okay, and I sort of like it. Must have been just like Fluttershy, Halloween's not really my thing, so I'm not particularly thrilled by this episode, but I still like it, and I'm sure for all those people who do like Halloween, I'm sure this was definitely a great episode, and it was great to see Nightmare Night come back and learn more about it, and definitely it was great to see Fluttershy growing and actually, stand up for herself in a way. But in the end, everyone's happy, and everyone's good, and everyone's found the way they can enjoy Nightmare Night the best, so yo-ho, and I just like it. It's just nice. And it's just a nice lesson that even though, it wasn't about bringing ponies together this time, everyone's happy. Everybody knows what they want and just finds a way to enjoy Nightmare Night. So overall, this episode was okay. If you were a fan of Halloween, you'll probably really like this episode. I'm like Fluttershy, I'm not really a big fan of Halloween. But, I didn't dislike it either. But, the stuff with Fluttershy at the beginning and the middle portions made this kind of difficult for me. But overall, this episode was okay. I sort of like it. And it was certainly cool to see some more about Nightmare Night. And see Fluttershy grow a little bit and, assert herself once again. But still not being a downer or anything. And I still really like this lesson. It was a good thing for a show like this to have a lesson like this from time to time. But still, again, without being a downer, and I guess at the end of the day, or maybe I guess that should be night, every pony got to enjoy Nightmare Night the way that they wanted. So that is the end of my Afterthoughts review of Scaremaster. At last it is done! Now I will finally not know what the next episode will be, and I can look forward to something new rather than waiting for this episode to finally be released. So this is Blue Star. Stay strong, and pony on. Blue Star out.